Good afternoon. I'm Jorge Cárdenas, your host. This is the video series Healing Addiction is Fast and Easy. This is video number 7, the sixth lecture in this process. And I began with the introduction of the force that I labeled the creative force in the second video, that really sums it up by saying that everything begins as a thought. And the second point on the first lecture was that everything that you repeat becomes a reality. It gives you results. It's not having the thought that is important, it's repeating the thought that makes the reality become true. In the next video we introduce something that I call the Cárdenas law, but in other books is expressed as the law of attraction, and I label it the Cárdenas law simply to make the point that that your brain does not let you choose anything except those choices that complete the thought. And this is a very difficult concept to understand, except that it's almost backwards to our logic. For example, if I say I'm too fat, the creative force tells us that I am going to gain weight, and my brain will only allow me to make the choices that make me fat. So if I had to choose between the brownie and the apple, my brain is going to let me choose the brownie, because it completes the thought. Now, logic tells me that I ought to choose the apple, but the creative force is far more powerful than the logic and the knowledge that my brain has, and therefore overpowers all the knowledge that I have. The force, the strength of the force, called the creative force, is in the magnitude of thousands of times stronger than knowledge, logic, or fear. In the next lecture I told you that your reality, whatever your reality happens to be, if you are addicted to alcohol, if you are addicted to pills, if you are addicted to porn, if you are addicted to hoarding, if you are addicted to bad relationships, all of whatever your reality happens to be, then we can clearly say that they are the result. Your reality is the result of all your thinking. And in the next video, I introduce a very interesting concept. The title of the video was Who is Right? And what happens is that if I am in a room of 10 people and I ask the opinion about something, whatever it is, the death penalty, abortion, whether alcohol should be legal or not legal, whether should we make marijuana legal or illegal, I will find that I am in a room full of opinions. And since my opinions, since my thoughts have led me to the reality that I am living now, then what is to say that your thinking or the next person's thinking or the next person's thinking is going to be better than mine? And so it is extremely important that we develop this concept of God, who is going to be the maker of the decisions right and wrong, who is going to give us the definition of what is right and what is wrong. And because I'm a born-again Christian, I can tell you much more about the God of the Bible, but I don't think that it is necessary that you think of God only as He is. And my hope is that eventually you come to the knowledge of the God that I pray to. But if you don't pray to that God, then God will be the source of information of right and wrong according to affects and how it affects your life. The important thing about that video is that since your thoughts have created your negative reality, I want you to stop using your thoughts and begin using the thoughts that God gives you. Now, in the latter video, number 6, I believe, was in the count, then we begin a process by which we change our thinking and we begin to repeat the thinking that God has given us. I am more familiar, for example, with the serenity prayer that says something like, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. And at the beginning, this thought sounds very positive. But if I think that alcohol is one of those things that I cannot change, then I am doomed to be a failure for the rest of my life, because since I cannot change it, I'm going to be an alcoholic for the rest of my life. The Christian God says that with God all things are possible. And since all things are possible, I can develop power over alcohol, and therefore, in the Christian thinking, I can do all things through Christ. And that's why I followed that thought. I can do all things through Christ. And I developed the power over the alcohol, because with God, all things are possible. So we begin a shift on living our lives from the way you had been thinking to a new way of thinking. And when we come to the new way of thinking, then our reality begins to change to the new way of thinking. And so the simplest source of all this new thinking, in my opinion, is the Bible. If you are going to AA, it will be the big book. And there are other ways of changing whatever reality you have by simply acquiring new thinking. I, again, personally recommend that you use the Bible, because the Bible has been correct in many other ways that are lacking, for example, in the big book of AA. I don't know if I made enough emphasis in the fact that it is those thoughts that you repeat that cause the reality to change. And so I wanted to emphasize that it is simply the number of times, the second step on the creative force, which says repetition, that empowers the thinking to move in that direction. Let's assume, for example, when I was obese and I would say, I'm so fat. And let's assume that I began saying that when I was age 5, and now that I found myself at age 46 unable to control my eating and suffering from the consequences of being obese. And let's assume that for every year I said it 1,000 times. Then I have accumulated negative thoughts about my body size for 40 years times 1,000 is 40,000 negative thoughts. So today's video really emphasizes the second step of the creative force, which says the repetition of the thought is what creates the power. Now, the reason why it now becomes simple to cure addiction is because all I have to do is overcome the number of times that I have committed the mistake. So for the obesity time, then I began to say, I'm healthier and healthier, I am stronger and stronger, I am thinner and thinner, and all I have to do is repeat the thought 40,000 times, so the thoughts begin to change and shift the balance to the point that I become thinner and thinner, healthier and healthier, stronger and stronger. And so what I am going to be receiving out of the repetition of that number of times is that I am now going to feel the desire, I'm going to feel the need, I'm going to feel the craving to do the things that I already knew were needing to be done to cause the change. So I began, for example, in terms of exercise, I began to say, I love to exercise, I love to exercise, I love to exercise, which is something that I did not say before. By the mere repetition of the thought, you're going to find yourself empowered to affect that thought. It does not require faith, and it does not require knowledge. For example, when I was nearly 240 pounds, when I began to say to myself, I am thinner and thinner, or I look great, it's not that I was telling my brain, I look great and I have to believe it. It's simply that I was telling my brain to choose to repeat that specific thought. And it is the repetition, it's the number of times. So I literally can sit right here in front of you and repeat, I look great, I look great, I look great, I look great. And a force that I call the creative force is going to be generating the desire within me to choose the things that I need to do in order to become better looking or thinner. In terms of alcohol, if you have been saying, for example, I love to drink, and again, let's say that you said it for 40 years and you said it 1,000 times a year, and if you said I love to drink, then you have accumulated 40,000 thoughts that are going to make your behavior very predictable, because 40,000 times is a lot of times, and you end up drinking and becoming an alcoholic. Now the craving is so intense that overpowers your knowledge and overpowers your fear and overpowers your common sense and your sense of responsibility. You simply become an alcoholic because you have said 40,000 times, I love to drink. But if I flip the thought and now I say the opposite, for example, I hate alcohol, you are going to be simply having to repeat it 40,000 times for you to feel that same strength of the desire that you felt toward alcohol. It is a matter of numbers. It does not require faith, it does not require belief, simply you become inclined to hating alcohol simply because you repeat it that many times. The power is in the number of times that you repeat the thought. Now, remember that thoughts have fields of action. And so if I say I have power over alcohol or I hate alcohol, I'm going to lose my desire to drink alcohol. But it leaves me vulnerable to taking pills, smoking weed, looking at porn, doing whatever other destructive behavior I have. So my suggestion is that you say, I am stronger than any addiction in my life. Now I have to repeat it 40,000 times in order to be able to overcome it. But you can do it in a simple session, sitting in front of your mirror or in front of someone in a meeting setting, or you can do it even by yourself. It is a number of times that you repeat the thought, I am stronger than any addiction in my life. The last thing that I want to tell you is that with your thoughts, your brain travels in certain directions. So you can say, I am stronger than any addiction in my life, and you're going to go in this direction. But you can also say, with God, I am stronger than any addiction in my life. And I want you to know that the human thought travels in one direction, and a godly thought travels in the opposite direction. It is your choice to choose which direction you're going to go. And again, because of my training, I recommend that you say, with God, I am stronger than any addiction in my life. You can repeat, with God, all things are possible. But it's now a matter of repetition and nothing else. Thank you.